They said it would be impossible to secure hundreds of millions of dollars in new tax incentives for the film and television community during a time of budget shortfalls and fierce political division. Skeptics in every corridor of the state capitol declared that lawmakers from outside Los Angeles would never support a plan they believed served only the wealthiest studios. But here we are, at the brink of a momentous shift in California's entertainment landscape, and it is all happening faster than anyone dared to imagine. Today, we are diving deep into how one bold coalition of filmmakers, producers, union members, and state officials engineered the expansion of the film and television tax credit program against all odds. First things first, what exactly is at stake, and who are the key players behind this extraordinary push? We will explore how a collective of creative minds, ranging from a philanthropically inclined producer to directors, writers, and showrunners of unstoppable passion, joined forces with everyday craftspeople on the brink of losing their livelihoods. In this telling, we will unearth the hidden alliances and motivations that made the difference between yet another legislative disappointment and a victory that stands to bring renewed jobs, fresh prospects, and surprising twists in how Hollywood does business. In this script, we will delve into several pressing questions. How did a group of union laborers and production veterans manage to sway politicians who initially dismissed their pleas? How did some of Hollywood's most influential creators, known for massive blockbusters and award-winning shows, turn up in Sacramento to champion the cause with surprising tenacity? And why has it become so critical to keep an eye on the possibility of a federal incentive in the near future? Buckle up, because we are about to embark on a cinematic journey of persuasion, perseverance, and good old-fashioned star power that overcame countless naysayers along the way. Picture the scene. Swarms of union workers, many of them set painters and camera operators, wandering through the marbled halls of the state capitol, waiting on wooden benches for their turn to speak. They carry personal stories of heartbreak and uncertainty, detailing the moment when their steady gigs on beloved shows were abruptly canceled because production fled to other states. Some even recall how they once enjoyed top-tier health coverage, only to lose their benefits after enduring months without stable employment. As frustration, fear, and exhaustion build, they find a source of renewed hope, a newly proposed film and television tax credit expansion that might finally restore California's competitiveness on a national and global scale. Heading this charge is producer Scott Budnick. He is not just another Hollywood executive. He is the founder of a nonprofit dedicated to criminal justice reform, and the man behind an impact-focused production company called One Community. Budnick became well known for bridging the gap between philanthropic efforts and the world of blockbuster movie making. He discovered that the same unstoppable energy that sustains an on-location shoot can transform entire legislative processes when properly channeled. And once he stepped into Sacramento, he rallied a web of new allies who recognized his sincerity. Yet Budnick was not alone in this quest. Filmmakers of big and small screens joined forces. Directors like Patty Jenkins, known for championing strong female-led stories, showrunners like Jonah Nolan, with a knack for mind-bending television, and writers like Damon Lindelof collectively showcased Hollywood's unstoppable storytelling abilities, but not just on sound stages. They brought that energy straight to legislators' offices, passionately underscoring how the lack of competitive tax credits had already lured large-scale productions to far-flung corners of the globe, from London to the Canadian woods. This was not simply a matter of maintaining star power in Los Angeles. It was about bringing stable jobs back home to thousands of men and women who rely on paychecks from the entertainment industry. The turning point arrived when session after session of heartfelt testimonies managed to melt even the hardest cynics. One poignant story stands out. A union-set painter who had once managed both a thriving career and a family, only to watch everything collapse after her projects relocated to foreign production centers. Overnight, she found herself without health care, a lost pension, and ultimately no place to live. She told her story in front of Senator Mike McGuire, who was so moved that he left his chair, embraced her, and offered his profound condolences for her hardships. Suddenly, the film and television tax credit issue grew from an abstract budget line to an immediate personal crisis that demanded meaningful legislative action. Of course, many legislators who were not from Los Angeles initially viewed this measure with suspicion. They asked, why should we channel state resources into supporting an industry that already seems flush with money? That hurdle loomed large. A number of progressive lawmakers worried that the film and television industry failed to benefit their lower-income constituents in any real way. Adding further complexity, there was an overall budget shortfall in the state. Lawmakers were reluctant to give recommendations that might appear to benefit only large corporations at the expense of critical services like healthcare and housing. Interestingly enough, key figures like Senator Scott Wiener from San Francisco did not hesitate to support the expansion from day one. He saw it as a chance to tackle the broader economic slump by boosting union jobs and fueling secondary local businesses, like construction and catering services around production sites. Meanwhile, the budget chair in the Assembly, Jesse Gabriel, consistently championed the economic ripple effect that major productions bring. Others, such as Senator Ben Allen, used set visits to shape the conversation, bringing colleagues to see the buzzing activity on high-profile sets and meet actual workers who stood to gain from the credit expansion. In a shrewd move, the supporters of this tax credit did not rely solely on big names to do the convincing. Instead, they organized nearly a dozen trips to Sacramento that featured the powerful voices of union grips, camera operators, caterers, and people who had never once stepped onto a red carpet. These individuals told legislators face-to-face about the devastating toll of losing their livelihoods when producers found cheaper incentives elsewhere. While it might be easy for lawmakers to question the testimonies of studio executives, it is more difficult to ignore the anxious mother or father who simply wants to provide for their family, especially when the difference between filming in-state and out-of-state can hinge on a few key budgetary line items. But the star power undeniably added an essential spark. Jonah Nolan, for example, gave lawmakers a first-hand glimpse at a relocated production. He walked them through the sets, letting them connect with the predominantly local teams and see diversity in action. After a few hours on that set, legislative observers went from disconnected to fully engaged, realizing that these were real men and women behind the cameras. Damon Lindelof, a writer with a gift for weaving intimate human stories with grand ideas, spoke openly about how these credits were essential, not just for huge franchises, but also for mid-sized projects where every cent counts. Patty Jenkins, whose name alone conjures images of epic big-screen storytelling, tirelessly demonstrated that behind every major motion picture are hundreds of craftspeople. She recounted how forging strong alliances with lawmakers could unlock an agenda for sustainable job creation and new filmmaking opportunities right in the heart of California. Even Cord Jefferson, a rising powerhouse acclaimed for his film American Fiction, underscored how a robust tax incentive can open doors for new voices who might otherwise get overlooked. If you are feeling the passion behind these stories, this is the perfect moment to show some support. Feel free to share a warm reaction or a friendly thumbs up if you believe lawmakers should hear more personal stories from the professionals who are directly affected by production moves. Your engagement might inspire others to learn more about these pivotal behind-the-scenes battles. Make no mistake, it took unwavering endorsement from Governor Gavin Newsom to push this policy from an interesting proposal to a top-tier priority. The governor never lost sight of the bigger picture, even as the budget crisis sharpened and certain social programs warned of possible cuts. He believed that restoring competitive production in the state could spark an economic revival that saved thousands of jobs and prevented entire families from losing the stability they had relied upon for so long. Once the momentum built, supporters hammered out some of the most critical provisions. The annual pool for the credit was set at $750 million. In addition to that eye-popping figure, they added extra sweeteners such as relocation incentives that can reach 40 or 45% of qualifying expenditures in specific regions. Shooting outside the main Los Angeles zone or hiring local vendors could unlock a higher percentage, making it more competitive for producers to choose every corner of California, from scorching desert towns to misty redwood forests. Of course, critics remain. They argue that this is all part of a race to the bottom, a competition between states and even countries that sets a dangerous precedent for rolling out deeper and deeper subsidies. But supporters point out that California will not be bowing out anytime soon. The film industry is woven into the state's cultural DNA, and letting it slip away to the East Coast or abroad could yield long-term economic harm well beyond lost jobs. That is why every detail, from how crew diversity is measured to how local workforce trainees enter the unions, matters deeply to supporters. Scott Budnick, for example, has always emphasized the need to open up union opportunities for individuals from underserved backgrounds. When production is at full steam, more training slots can be offered, allowing participants to gain on-the-job experience that catapults them into a lifelong career. The new credit system features a 2% bonus for production teams willing to hire trainees from communities that have historically been locked out of high-paying behind-the-scenes jobs. This measure is meant to address the past criticisms about the industry's glaring lack of diversity behind the camera. It is worth noting that before this latest victory in California, Budnick had been at the forefront of numerous legislative battles involving youth, criminal justice, and social reform. He realized that lobbying in Sacramento has its own language, a blend of personal storytelling, data-driven arguments, and well-timed star appearances. He and his network applied those same skills to the tax credit debate, zeroing in on legislators who were on the fence. Eventually, many of these skeptical lawmakers came to see the issue as a matter of broader economic justice rather than mere corporate welfare. The personal narratives proved crucial. Believing that the entertainment business is for the elite is easy when you have never spoken to the everyday laborers who build the sets, manage lighting rigs, or run time-consuming errands for location managers. But hearing from an exhausted camera grip who has not been employed for 6 months, or meeting the teams who handle hundreds of costumes, often people from working-class neighborhoods, casts the conversation in a new light. This transparency about who truly benefits from a competitive tax incentive made a profound impression. Union representatives from all corners of the industry also weighed in. Electricians, sound specialists, special effects artists, and, yes, even caterers hammered home the same message. They want to keep working in California. They have spent years building professional networks here. Their families are here. They have mortgage payments and children in local schools. Luring them away to other states might be a quick fix for a production chasing the best financial incentive, but it leaves a gaping wound in the local economic fabric. By unveiling that reality to legislators, supporters cemented the notion that upgrading the credit was not merely a showbiz perk, it was an investment in the state's overall health. That sense of urgency soared higher as strike actions from various guilds loomed, and major cuts to social services threatened to overshadow the entire conversation. Some legislators argued that, given the budget difficulties, the timing was not ideal. But ironically, it was exactly because of those financial challenges that supporters insisted that the new incentive was more critical than ever. If the industry crumbled entirely, tens of thousands of middle-class jobs could vanish, exacerbating the economic crisis and fueling widespread discontent. The promise of renewed hope, combined with genuine emotional appeals, swayed many. Budnick, Jenkins, Nolan, Lindelof, Jefferson, and a host of union spokespeople continued their relentless campaign up to the last minutes of the budget process. Each time, they reminded lawmakers that the film and television sector is not a monolith of wealthy producers. Instead, it contains a broad base of technicians, artists, and skilled workers who fuel the entertainment engine and, in turn, require stable conditions to provide for their loved ones. That message, repeated in all its variants, eventually broke through. Then came the triumphant day, a final trailer bill that authorized the expanded tax credit for the industry, granting $750 million annually and embedding new layers of incentives that reward productions for keeping crew diversity high, offering traineeships and shooting in different regions of the state. It was the green light that so many had struggled for, a legislative victory that signaled a renewed commitment to the homegrown filming tradition that made California legendary. But the story does not end here. Noticeably, the conversation about a possible federal tax credit has begun to simmer. Many insiders point out that the worldwide race for production dollars is intensifying. Some fear that if the United States as a whole does not step up, major franchises and even mid-tier productions will continue to pivot to foreign locales that offer better deals. According to Budnick and his allies, a national incentive could help unify the industry around domestic hiring, ensuring that local economies across multiple states thrive without constantly undercutting each other. While obstacles are guaranteed, including the usual swirl of political tensions, the success in California might well be the spark that inspires a broader conversation among federal legislators. Still, there is a great deal of hope to be found in the recent developments. For union members like the set painter forced to live in her car, the immediate relief of knowing more shows and films will remain in state can be life-changing. That is not a talking point you hear in quick headlines, nor is it a statistic that would jump out in a budget hearing, but it is an intensely human outcome. Now, this single expansion could mean a renewed sense of opportunity for countless families who rely on entertainment gigs to stay afloat. If you are as intrigued by these behind-the-scenes narratives as we are, feel free to stay connected. A quick follow or subscription to our future updates ensures you will not miss our continuing deep dives into the stories of the people who make film magic happen every single day. California's film and television tax credit expansion offers a rare example of adversaries finding common ground, no small feat amid the swirl of competing interests in Sacramento. It took a blend of well-orchestrated visits, moving personal testimonies, firm gubernatorial backing, and yes, a bit of Hollywood sparkle. And that is why the new policy stands not only as a legislative triumph, but also a testament to the power of combined advocacy. At its heart, the story shows that real change comes when everyday folks refuse to be silent, even as top names in the industry stand shoulder to shoulder with them. One perspective has it that the entertainment business was standing at the edge of a cliff, battered by a global pandemic, battered by shifting consumer habits, and battered by the intensifying competition from states like Georgia, New Mexico, and beyond. Yet in that very moment of crisis, the people of Hollywood revealed a willingness to unite and create a broad coalition. Instead of brushing aside the concerns of union crews, they championed those voices, turning them into the linchpin that convinced legislators to say, "Yes, we believe in you. We trust you to bring filming back home. But with victory comes responsibility." Jonah Nolan himself famously took a financial hit by relocating a production from New York to Los Angeles, determined to plant roots in the place he calls home. Now, with the new incentives, there is a moral obligation for producers, studios, and streaming giants to keep their word. They asked for robust credits. They presented a grand plan for how it would transform the workforce. So, the big question becomes, will they honor that promise and continue to create jobs in the Golden State? As the dust settles, Scott Budnick and other advocates talk about hosting dialogues with studio chiefs and their physical production teams, ensuring no one forgets the reason behind these new incentives. Their dream scenario is that, if a film's budget difference is marginal, the final decision should be to remain in California, enabling local communities and new trainees to benefit. In short, a new era of accountability and local empowerment has arrived. We must not overlook the vital role that many philanthropic-minded artists played in driving this forward. Budnick enlisted the help of Patty Jenkins and Damon Lindelof, not merely because they had name recognition, but also because these creatives care deeply about the craft and the people behind it. Witnessing them share space with rank-and-file workers, listening intently to personal tragedies, and endorsing specific legislative changes showed that synergy between major players and grassroots activists can genuinely overcome political inertia. Moreover, as the conversation inevitably turns to Washington, D.C., one can envision an even bigger initiative on the horizon. If the fight in Sacramento boiled down to persuading a few dozen legislators, can you imagine the magnitude of the national debate that awaits those who propose a federal credit? Yet the possibility is exciting. It raises the potential of preventing major surefire blockbusters from chasing after more generous deals across the Atlantic, while also growing new opportunities in historically overlooked communities across the entire country. In the meantime, California remains the ultimate stage for epic showdowns, be they cinematic or political. New productions may soon bring life back to neglected areas, and we could see a blossoming of local economies once reliant on location shoots that have steadily dwindled over the years. The young men and women stepping out of foster care or juvenile detention might find a surprising career path waiting for them on set, thanks to dedicated training programs embedded in these new policies. Indeed, that was always Budnick's greatest ambition, bridging worlds that rarely intersect and making sure no one is shut out of the prosperity that filming can provide. That is the crux of this entire odyssey. Every single policy detail that moves forward with the state's tax credit expansion champions an ecosystem of solidarity and inclusion. It acknowledges that below the red carpet glitz and rumored million-dollar paydays, there is a vast working class for whom these changes make the difference between security and abandonment. Whether it results in the expansion of soundstage construction, the creation of rural filming hubs, or the infusion of new scholarships to help aspiring craftspeople, one thing is clear. California is not giving up its rightful place as a global center of entertainment just yet. In the coming years, we will be keeping our ear to the ground, observing the real impacts of this newly invigorated program. Will we see a surge of projects that were previously on the fence now deciding to stay in the Golden State? Will smaller, more niche productions finally get a shot at the same cost efficiencies as their blockbuster counterparts? And will we see a concerted effort to expand job access to those who have never before been welcomed into the filmmaking fold? In short, the story is still unfolding, and we will be here, spotlighting every twist. For now, we have witnessed how spirited alliances, cohesive strategies, and personal revelations triumphed over cynicism and economic malaise, giving the California film and television industry a new chapter. From the vantage point of other states and countries, this might look like some miraculous drama, but to the people who trekked month after month to the Capitol, it is the culmination of unbridled perseverance. Undoubtedly, they will not rest on their laurels. Neither will we. Whatever comes next, it all started with a daring group of dreamers, hustlers, and underdogs who believed that for once, California could rewrite its future. By emphasizing authenticity, forging cross-sector friendships, and compelling Sacramento's power players to listen, they resurrected hope for a battered industry, and in doing so, they crafted one of the most surprising blockbusters of the decade. Whether you are a longtime union worker or a budding director with a script in your back pocket, there might be space for you in this renewed landscape. And that, folks, is the grand unveiling of how threat, adversity, and unexpected alliances shape the next era of filmmaking in California. Stay tuned, because there is definitely more to come in the delicate balance of politics, art, and economic survival.